Crowmeister suspects that there is something far more sinister than simple equipment failure going on.
We're stuck with this garbage. You're going to have to take care warming it up since it's about twice your age.
The equipment is over 30 years old, but Crowmeister thinks sabotage is the only reason it would break. There's a trash can full of wood pieces here, but Nancy doesn't put any of the wood pieces inside it. The tornado is far away enough that it doesn't affect Nancy, yet close enough that it moves the box from the side of the barn to the front door. Debbie doesn't have enough time to sort her folders, but she has enough time to write out this series of clues.
Mice!
Her interactive slogan used to be, "For girls who aren't afraid of a mouse." According to this receipt, Pa charges sales tax, but he doesn't charge sales tax when Nancy buys supplies later on. Mel is not on the Waverly TV show. The word Frankenstein on the book's spine is facing the wrong direction. Does Ned know Nancy has the Hardy Boys as her phone background? The Venetian Garden background is from Curse of Blackmoor Manor, not Phantom of Venice. Nancy's phone is always blue, no matter what background you choose.
Put a sample disaster kit together for me.
Nancy does everyone else's chores cliché. Scott needs a sample disaster kit. Why don't they have a real disaster kit that Scott can borrow?
Do it, okay? If you need a nanny, have your uncle send one.
Scott is a jerk. What does Scott do all day? I never see him do anything besides tap 2 buttons on his keyboard.
Actually, that tornado is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Nancy thinks a small tornado is cooler than her jetpack, pet orca, and the lost writings of Marie Antoinette, Abraham Lincoln, and Edgar Allan Poe.
And if you haven't introduced yourself to Pa or finished the filing, please do so.
Debbie wants Nancy to meet Pa before meeting Chase or Frosty.
Oh, and thanks for driving that car up here for us. That was a big help.
Literally no one else uses the car besides Nancy. It's pretty much impossible to see where the mistakes are in this puzzle. This puzzle. Why does it matter if they're in the same diagonal line? The pipes aren't connected diagonally.
Again? All right, Mouse. This house isn't big enough for the both of us.
Nancy talks right next to Frosty, and he ignores her. What does Frosty do all day? It looks like he's staring at a coffee cup. Nancy's driving. How are there no controls on these roads? There should be stop signs everywhere. By default, Nancy drives much faster than everyone else. That is just begging for accidents. Nancy causes horrible car crashes and leaves the scene of the accident. So there are only 3 buildings in all of Oklahoma? Stuck on the far edge of the game here. A little help, anyone?
Why, I know all sorts of stuff about you. I even know his cell phone number, Miss Nancy Drew. Let's see, it's 523-555-4399. How do you like them apples?
Pa is a stalker.
Staying connected in an emergency, just about the best way to stay safe.
And yet, Nancy doesn't have the contact information of anyone on the team.
Keep your numbers right here by the phone.
Pa gestures to an empty counter while talking about the phone. Pa pennies are a blatant ripoff of Big Island bucks. Pa made over 10,000 Pa pennies all in the year 1998. I think he has a problem. How does Pa's store make money if no one uses money?
Just purchase wisely. Our budget is very limited.
Without being told, Nancy knows her budget is $32.50. This puzzle. This puzzle reused from game 20.
You're right. It's time to get rid of him.
Debbie and Frosty don't hear Nancy's phone go off. Debbie knows Nancy will be in the cornfield today, but she decides to have a secret conversation there anyway. Why didn't they chat in the basement? It's secluded from everyone else, and Frosty wouldn't even have had to move. Nancy waits several days before talking to Debbie and Frosty about their plot against Scott. Why doesn't she confront them right away? Nancy doesn't tell Scott about Frosty and Debbie's sabotage.
I overheard them talking. They were talking about how someone, I assume Scott, was close to the edge.
Way too late to get cold feet here, Frosty. Scott needs to be taken care of.
They said Scott's name out loud. Why is Nancy guessing who they talked about?
Wrong car. This isn't the right car.
Why can't Nancy use the other cars? All she's doing is taking pictures with Frosty.
I'm getting some great shots here. What about you?
How are you getting good shots? This is boring scenery.
How do I download the photos?
Easy. Just plug the camera into the computer and do what it says.
That's uploading photos, not downloading photos.
Then if you give me a little time, I'll organize everything into folders.
Frosty never does this. Frosty's Cloud Photo Challenge.
Would you like some candy?
I guess. Ugh, I hate chocolate. Keep it.
Can I interest you in some candy?
Why not? Nope, I don't do chocolate.
Nancy will offer someone the same piece of candy over and over again. Don't be so pushy, Nancy.
This is a broadcast of the
Hello?
emergency
Is someone
notification
there?
system. There have been multiple reports of a tornado touchdown in the area.
Why is this the only tornado in the game that gets an emergency warning?
I'm looking for candles. Can you help? Someone is out there, right?
Nancy hears the front door open, but she doesn't turn to look at who just entered. This person completely disappears in 1/10 of a second. No one moves that quickly. We never get told who this person is or what they were doing here. We're left to guess it was Scott reading Debbie's letters, but why do that in the middle of the night? The letters were out in the open all day long.
Shoot, the power must be out.
If the power is out, why is the basement light still on? There are 3 letters here, but Nancy can only read one of them.
So I just wanted to say you did a pretty fair job driving during the chase yesterday.
Nancy didn't drive on a chase yesterday, she went picture taking with Frosty. Besides, you weren't there, so how would you know what her driving was like?
It's pretty much my job, fixing stuff.
They hired Chase to fix stuff before they knew everything would be breaking down. What were they planning to have him do if everything stayed intact like it should have?
It's over there on the workbench.
That's not a workbench, that's a shelf.
I don't know what them mice found so appealing about that hose, but they sure went to town.
Chase says multiple mice chewed the tube, when there is only one cut on the tube. No one notices this is clearly a knife cut, not a mouse bite.
Cheese? I hate to be the one to break it to you, Nancy, but cheese is not candy.
Then why is it in the candy section? This puzzle.
Well, congratulations, Nancy. From what I've seen, you got that Fugate display set up just perfect.
How was Pa able to see the display from where he's standing?
Clove bark snappers any day, or Dr. Belleton's reconstituted rhubarb cordials.
Not that I doubt Pa, but I find it hard to believe that anyone ever made reconstituted rhubarb cordials.
Really? What does she ask about?
1, 2, 3, 4...
Anything and everything, but mostly...
What's with the paws, Pa?
I was just wondering, where's the Ma part of Ma and Pa's?
Even if Nancy knows Ma is dead, she still bothers Pa about his dead wife. Nancy is a jerk. The interior of the mousetrap changes every time you use it. This puzzle is long and slow, and you have to do it 4 times. The culprit lured mice into the house with corn, but the mice refuse to eat the corn when Nancy uses it. Nancy caught way more mice than this scene shows. Now I'm worried some mice got loose in her car.
I haven't noticed any little piles of corn.
I can't believe Debbie never saw the corn pile that's right next to her filing cabinet.
I can't turn in. I still have stuff to do.
Some days, Nancy can go to sleep after doing her chores. Other days, Nancy refuses to go to sleep because she magically knows Debbie will have extra chores for her.
The storm is the other way. Turn back! Wrong way!
Frosty yells at Nancy for not going towards the storm when nobody told her where the storm is. If Nancy stops at a photo place during a chase, she sees a bright sunny day. This puzzle.
We failed to get so much as 1 inch of footage on it, thanks to you.
Everyone blames Nancy for the loss of the footage when they should blame Frosty for not having a working camera. Nancy finds Scott's key at the site of the sabotage antenna, but she doesn't follow up on this lead.
Turn ahead 999 leagues.
The GPS only talks when it's broken. What GPS is programmed to give distances in leagues? Frosty's screaming.
You're afraid of mice?
Nancy thinks it's funny that Frosty is afraid of mice when Nancy is afraid of mice.
Sure, driving without coolant will destroy a car, but the driver will get a warning before any real damage is done.
Why didn't Pete's car give him a warning?
I found some very interesting letters.
All right, tell me more.
Seems that Debbie's been turning down some pretty good employment opportunities.
All right, that's not very interesting at all.
You know your game has problems when Nancy has a hard time convincing other characters to care about the plot.
Reading these letters, it's clear that she expects Scott out, and soon.
No, the letter is a job offer. It has nothing at all to do with Scott. Debbie's desk changes sizes when Nancy talks to her. Debbie sees a random object fly out of Scott's office, and she immediately knows it's Scott's phone jack.
Still moving, like how fast?
Just a crawl, but still, who does that?
As long as you're making sure that everything looks right.
Scott and Brooke instantly change their conversation the second Nancy picks up the headphone. Instead of destroying the evidence, Scott leaves this knife in his office where anyone can find it. This conversation and the knife prove that Scott is the culprit, but Nancy ignores this evidence and acts like she found nothing. The top of Scott's magazine is uncovered here, but it's covered up whenever Nancy offers him candy. This puzzle! You have to solve all 3 puzzles in counterclockwise order, otherwise the game won't accept your solutions. Nancy fixes the TV the exact same second that it's playing Frosty's footage. What amazing timing!
But you screwed up. It happens to everyone. So just admit it and move on.
Debbie is a jerk. Frosty changes the topic when Nancy talks to him about trying to get Scott fired. Nancy lets him get away with this instead of pushing the issue.
Actually, I'm kind of tired of catching mice.
Yeah? Well, maybe I'm kind of tired of selling you stuff. Being such an all-around nice guy. Know what I'm saying?
Pa blackmails Nancy into catching mice. Pa is a jerk.
Remember, the lights won't turn until you activate them.
Scott unhelpfully doesn't tell her how to activate them.
Nice job, Nancy. Actually, it looks like we're out a bit early here. Nothing's developing like it should be. Let's get back to base and track from there.
All that work for nothing?
He was so preoccupied he didn't even lock his office, and he always locks his office.
Debbie says Scott always locks his office, but Nancy is able to snoop in Scott's office when he's not there.
He left in the truck. He's got all of our equipment, and he's not answering his phone.
Debbie makes a big deal over how she has no way to find Scott. Later on, she says,
Little dot you see, follow that, and it will lead you right to Scott. We put a tracker on his truck. It's a safety thing.
Why didn't she use the tracker to begin with? How did Scott get this paper inside his drawer when Nancy has the drawer key? Brooke is paying Scott to leave town forever so his team will lose. Why didn't she do that to begin with? This puzzle. Why does Scott even have this puzzle? He doesn't want anyone to follow him, so why make a puzzle that lets people follow him? Why did Brooke leave Scott this letter instead of calling him like she did earlier?
What? No. Wait! I'm gonna have to deal with that later. It doesn't matter right now. What's important now is that we keep on top of this storm.
Debbie insists she can't leave to get Scott because of the storm. When we next hear from her, Debbie is left to go to the play. Scott's truck isn't visible here. Scott's butt.
The people who've been looking up to you all this time.
In what universe did the rest of the team look up to Scott?
And yes, Brooke is paying me a small fortune to do so.
If Brooke has a small fortune to pay off Scott, why does she need the grant? Scott slaps Nancy on the shoulder and she falls unconscious. Scott goes from mostly harmless sabotage to trying to kill Nancy with little provocation. Scott doesn't bother to steal Nancy's keys to prevent her from chasing after him. Nancy can call the Hardys and Krollmeister here, but she doesn't tell them about Scott's confession.
You've got my Grange keys with you in Frosty's car.
Nancy isn't in Frosty's car. This puzzle. This puzzle reused from Game 5. The culprit is getting away, and we're on a time crunch because of the twister, but sure, let's have a 72-second conversation before chasing Scott.
God, he wasn't always like this.
Debbie waits until the last 5 minutes of the game before telling Nancy that Scott is dangerous.
I wanted to push Scott until the world saw how reckless he was being.
Debbie and Frosty are worried Scott is dangerous. Instead of trying to stop him, they plan to drive him over the edge and make him even more dangerous. How is that a good plan? According to the scene, Scott crashes into a pole. According to the map, the pole was knocked over before Scott got there. Scott crashes because he's trying to avoid a bouncing tire. Where did the tire come from? Scott crashes in the middle of the highway, but when Nancy finds him, he's next to the shed. Conveniently located crowbar. What happened to all the mice that Nancy put here earlier?
You received community service for destruction of public property and interfering with public safety records.
Messing with public safety records and vandalism? When did Scott do that?
He didn't fare so well with the college. They fired him.
The game acts like it's a big deal to fire a professor in May. At most, he only had 2 weeks of teaching left, and besides, they denied him tenure, so it's not like he was going to stick around next year. Everyone besides Scott gets a free pass on sabotage. Why is everyone wearing different clothes in the ending sequence? They're standing in front of the barn that was destroyed. The game logo moves up when Nancy answers the trivia question. The credits list radio voices, but not TV voices. The credits don't list Pa's last name, which was mentioned in Ma's obituary.
I've got some extra candy. Would you like a piece?
Why not? Cheese? What is this, some kind of cruel hoax? Wait, did you ask if I wanted candy or if I wanted cheese? I'm a little confused. Cheese? I hate to be the one to break it to you, Nancy, but cheese is not candy. Nancy, this is cheese. What am I supposed to do with cheese?
Oh, I see what you did right there. Not cool, Nancy. Not cool. Cheese? Is this a code? If you're in danger, blink twice. No offense, Nancy, but cheese and candy are not really the same thing.
This is so not candy. This is cheese. What's this now, cheese? Cheese? Is this some kind of prank?
No thanks. I ain't a big fan of no cheese. Well, that's just not even close to being candy. Cheese? Gotta be honest here, Nancy, if this is a joke, I don't get it. Cheese? No thanks, I don't really trust cheese.